our second Fireside chat. My name is Tara Sangal, and I'm here with Emmanuel Ndifor, who is talking today about the branding and marketing through technology. Emmanuel is some sort of pro at marketing, and he has a lot of wisdom that he can share with us. We will be having the first 30 minutes regarding some of Emmanuel's own journeys and his own perspective, and then the last 30 minutes will be an open Q&A for all of us to interact.
Thank you so much for stepping up and for being on this live session with me. I think it's going to be an amazing hour with you. So I look forward to chatting with you over the next hour.
So to start us off, I'd like to ask Emmanuel, what is the most general form of branding? How would you define it?
Well, so when I hear the word branding, right, I think about an emotion, and I think about how does that emotion make me feel, not just when I'm in front of an entity. It could be an individual, it could be a company, it could be a product, it could be a service, and I think about what does that emotion when I interact with it, and I'm away from that physical entity. What does that what does that satisfy, right? So that is what I think about of when I think of a brand. And when if you want to look at two pathways that you can talk about branding, you can go into the personal brand route, or you can go into more so the regular brand that we consider when we generally talk about branding, which is going to be a company, a product, or a service. An example could be Nike. So it's more so when I use Nike's product, how do I feel? Do I feel a sense of satisfaction when I'm using the Nike running shoes to go to the gym and, run for 30 minutes, right? Do I feel satisfied as opposed to wearing an Adidas? If so, why, right? So that's what I think about branding is what attaches me, what draws me to a company, what draws me to a product, or what do I want for myself if I'm going on that personal brand route that others can interact with, and how do I want that individual to feel? So underline all of that is all about emotions, right? So that's how I think about branding.
Okay, so for you specifically, what are some emotions that you try to emulate through your own branding experiences?
That's a good question, actually. So I actually did take I did this analysis a while ago, but there is this researcher from Wharton University. He's called what's his name? It's gonna come. And he had this research where he was thinking of he was trying to figure out what causes virality, right? And what are the drivers that transmit a content to make it go viral. And then when I was reading that research, it actually gave me an insight into exactly why I have certain things that I resonate to and why I have certain things that I want people to feel when they interact with me. So an example is going to be emotions like anger, emotions like care, emotions like what are the other emotions that are associated with virality? So something like happiness, right? Emotions like anger, emotions like shareability, or emotions like love or compassion and all those things. So when I look at my brand, I think about those emotions that I know I care about, and I figure out a way when I am putting myself out there, and it could be through my content. It could, and the one thing to note is that you're not just putting yourself out there visually, right? Like electronically, so it doesn't have to be through social media and etc. But it's also when you have, I know we live in a crazy world now where everything's through Zoom. We are doing this through Zoom, and I've never met Tara, but I feel like I've known Tara for years, right? So which is pretty cool. But when things get back to normal, when I'm interacting with people at my office, right, at work, in the streets, at restaurants, right, how do I want those people to feel when they're interacting with me? But even more so, on the different levels of the topic of conversation, how do I want that individual to feel when they listen to me talk about certain things? Do I want them to be happy? Do I want them to be sad? Or do I want them to feel triggered? Right. So I look at all those things, and when I am trying to put myself out there, and when these companies actually are trying to create content and they're trying to create, products, they have these emotions that they know that they want their consumers to feel when they are interacting with that particular product. So an example is going to be, if you wear good Nike shoes and then you go run, you don't have any blisters on your feet. When you come back, I'm like, whoo, that was a good run. So you're happy, right? You feel fulfilled. But if you go and you wear, maybe, I don't want to call it a brand yet because I haven't had that experience with most of the brands is, and you go and it's too tight, it doesn't have any comfort, there's no aerodynamics that helps the movements better or etc. And you come like, oh my God, I have a sore fit. I'm never gonna use this shoe anymore, right? So what the emotion you're feeling at the time is not one that will make you tell someone to go buy that same shoes. So that's how emotions are expressed through brands.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I mean, definitely we all have our own experiences, and it's something that I never really understood or realized could affect my daily life so much. But for our own personal branding, what are some examples of an emotion that you would try to stay away from when creating your own brand, if there is such a thing?
You know, so literally any negative emotion that I know, because one of the fundamental things about myself, and I know you fairly well, and you are a very, very, very positive individual. You are someone, when you interact, when you get into a room, when you get into, and you may not notice, but this is part of your brand. When you get into a Zoom call, and when you get into a Zoom chat, or you get into a Slack chat, you always do something there that makes people feel happy. You bring some sort of like a positive energy in that environment. That is part of your brand, right? And you may not intentionally do that, but that is truly who you are, and that's fundamentally your truth. That's fundamentally your brand, and that's how you make people feel. So it's important to know that, but also it's important to know when you think about empathy, right? And when you think about building communities, and when you think about understanding people and respecting people, right? For me personally, one of the things that I stay away from is, and I will preface that by saying sometimes you're going to express yourself in a way that is not meant to offend anybody, but just by the virtue that it's a sensitive conversation, you are bound to offend one person that doesn't agree with that point of view, right? So literally, fundamentally, my whole concept about my emotions and how I want to express, I want people to feel when they interact with my content is, I don't want anyone to leave feeling like I intentionally try to hurt them, right? If it's a tough conversation, then it's a tough conversation. I'll respectfully bring up my point, and if we don't agree on it, then that's fine. So I try to be respectful. I try to approach people with empathy, understand where they are coming from, and ensure that my content, myself, and the way I put myself out there is in line with how I would like people to treat me.
Yeah, so basically what I'm hearing is that you want to be kind of the most honest and genuine, because if you're finding that balance within yourself, then you're most likely to brand yourself correctly, which will definitely help you in the, future.
Yeah, and come to think of it, right? But when you see people putting out like facades, and people just trying to put up a front and try to be who they're not, and 2 3 years ago, when, let's say 4 or 5 years ago, when Gary Vee was he was getting to his peak. And if you're familiar with Gary Vee, he talks and he swears a lot, right? Like he doesn't have any filter, and some people, because that resonated with Gary Vee's crowd, but that's truly who Gary Vee is. He's not putting up a front, right? But that's truly who he is, and people resonate to that because that's who Gary Vee is. Those that don't like him swearing, using, like, having a sailor's mouth, it's okay. Those people will probably appreciate his content, but wouldn't appreciate how he is voicing out his opinion because of profanity, etc. And some people will just go copycat Gary Vee because they've seen Gary Vee becoming successful with his style, and they want to just copy paste, and that doesn't work because I can see through you. And when I see through you and I see that you're not authentic, you're not genuine, then it's something that I'm going to run away from, because if I can trust you, I can do business with you. If I can trust you, I can hire you. If I can trust you, I can be friends with you. And it's the same whole concept.
Yeah, that makes sense. The authenticity is something that every single brand needs. So, kind of going on, should, like you were talking about Gary Vee, he start with branding with a focus on his audience, or should someone start their branding more personally and then kind of find an audience themselves that could interact the best with them?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the word brand, right? And when you think about personal, right? What does that mean? It means it means one thing. It means you, right? The only person of focus is you, right? So you always have to start with self. You always have to start internally. You have to internalize yourself. And I get that in order for you to consider yourself an influencer, a brand, then other people need to know about your brand, which is true. But at the same time, you need to be you first. So making sure that you are true to who you are, understanding that your brand is you and you are the sole conductor of your life, and your values are personal to you and your beliefs are personal to you. And when you start there, and you know, Jordan Peterson always says that don't go and try to fix the world if you have a messy bedroom. I'm not, that's not his exact quote. And that principle applies here. Don't go and try to tell the world where your brand is. Meanwhile, you don't understand what your brand is, right? Don't go and sell a brand if you don't even know who you are. So fix yourself, understand who you are, understand the things you bring to the table, and then you can talk about how can I use my perspective, how can I influence other people to become better, and then that's how you should start. And in whatever channel that you choose to transmit that information through or voice your opinion, that's up to you.
Yeah, that's a really good, great insight because, you know, in our environment with social media and Instagram and being part of this generation where we're all very focused on our own Instagram and our own how others perceive ourselves. How do you stay true to yourself without getting influenced by the viewers or the number of LinkedIn reactions or things like that?
Ah, Lord. So, okay. Whew. We all have influences, right? We all have people that we look up to. And most often we think that influencers are people on the internet that have a massive following, that we are just one of the followers. But in many cases, sometimes the influencers in your life are the people around you, right? One of my biggest influencers is my mother. My mother, you go to Facebook, you go to Instagram, you go to MySpace, you go to Hotmail, you never see her. She doesn't have any digital footprint. She's my biggest influencer. And I stay true to who I am because my one of my influencers are fundamentally the person that brought me and shaped me as a man. So that has been one of my lucky is actually a lucky thing for me. But I think most people, they have like influences within their family circles. So I say my mother. But of course, there are other people that I look up to. When I was starting out my career, there are other people that I look up to that I wanted to be like, you know. So I try to learn from those people's experiences. I try to learn from them because those people, it's going to be absolutely stupid for me to think there's nothing to learn from the past. So I try to figure out what I can learn from them. And by learning from those people, it influences me to shape who I am going to become in the future. So I think of what they can offer me and what does that mean to me, and how can I express myself in a very genuine form. So it's the same thing like rap, right? Most rappers have a rapper that they took their rapping style from. They learn from someone. And when you learn from someone, you become that person over a course of time. But when you are a master of your craft, you start to have your unique voice, which is a combination of all of your influences. So it's that same process, right? How many influences do you have? And when you merge all those influences together, what comes out? That's who you are. But you have to be intentional about what you're putting in so that what comes out makes sense to you too.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, what I'm kind of hearing is that while the youth and people in social media should learn from others in that same channel, like you were talking about, it's important to stay original and stay authentic while combining the advice and learning and lessons from your other peers and the people you look up to.
Yeah,
So,
but just to add on one thing on top of that, Tara, is even if when you look at, and I'll ask myself this question: if I want to follow, let's say Kendrick Lamar or Eminem, or if I want to follow Gary Vee, or if I want to follow Neil deGrasse Tyson, why? you know. And you have to understand that your influences should add something of value to your life, right? And when you think about why what type of value they are adding, you realize that most often it has some sort of there is a value fit. So it could be more so culture, it could be more so the message this person is talking about, or it could be how they make you feel, right? Do they have the same passion as you? Do they have the same interest? Are they working in an industry that you would like to be there one day, right? And then naturally they're going to impact you positively, but sometimes it could be negative if you're not careful about how you align what you want to get from an influencer or learn from someone who's going to be like, I call them virtual mentors or digital mentors, and yourself. So you need to be careful because you are the person that's going to bring in, and there is this thing in data science, bad data, good data in, good result, bad data in, bad result, right? So good influences, good result, bad influences, bad result.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're saying once you have positive role models and positive people to look up to, then your own unique vision and brand would become kind of a mixture of those ideas and your own intentional influence about
Abs-
positivity.
Absolutely. So smart, Tara. Awesome. Love it. Love it. Love it. So, okay, let's before we go, before you ask your next question, right? Let's take an example with you, Tara, right? So, who do you look up to right now on the internet? Which your how many influencers do you every day go and check their page and check what they've put out?
So personally, what I'm gonna say, it might sound a little strange, but someone who I've looked up to since I was a really little kid has actually been Taylor Swift. So, kind of the story that I got from her was she was an inspiration in her hometown. She had a really she grew up in a small area selling Christmas trees or something. However, she kind of believed in herself and she believed in something larger than herself. And she was able to work at the things that she was passionate at until she was able to reach a place where she could influence others. And when I was younger, I didn't really think much of her, but now as I'm getting older, and she also is getting older, she's about like, I don't know, she's like 6 or 7 years older than me. Um, she's starting to take a part in politics and the world around her. So as a celebrity, you don't really see, okay, there are certain types of celebrities that do involve themselves in politics, but the large majority of them don't use their platform to spread positivity and good vibes. But something that I really admired about Taylor Swift was that she was relentless. She didn't care who she was offending by producing songs that were sensitive to certain groups, but she always knew that she wanted to help others and she wanted to help these minority groups that were getting hate on the internet. But something that I just found you know, um, so impressive was that she is a very stereotypical person who might not believe in the things that she was, describing. But what I really admired was that she used her platform for something good. And she didn't care about the effect that it would have on her viewers. If she dropped, I don't know how many viewers she has each month, if she dropped about 10,000 listeners, she didn't care because she was doing something she was passionate about. So I think if that helps, she was
No,
kind of
no,
the person.
no, for sure. It does help. And you're trying to sell me on Taylor Swift right now. I didn't know she had. I didn't know she had. She was from she's a, a good. She's one of the best artists out there. I don't really listen to a ton of Taylor Swift music, but of course I know I know her body of work, and she's from humble beginnings, and then that's impressive. I didn't know that she used to sell Christmas trees. That's pretty impressive. So I think you don't just resonate to Taylor Swift just for her music, but for her story, where she is from, right? Those are the things that connect you. That's pretty cool. That's pretty dope. Nice.
Mhm. So similarly, who are the influencers that you look up to? What are the values that you find in some people that kind of inspire you to do better, other than, of course, your mom?
Other than my mom. So who? That's so this could sound like pretty bad. I don't really have one person that I like, oh my God, right? This is that person.
Mhm.
But what I do have would be a collection of different pieces across different people, both from the past that are now deceased and currently, and picking out things as I go through my life that I think will impact me positively. And I use those things to mold me and shape me as a man and shape me as a human being, right? But there are many people, right? I love like the Gary V. One of the things that I resonate with him is his story, right? An immigrant in the United States. I'm an immigrant, and just true because of true hustle and true pure sheer determination. He's not the smartest guy in the world, but he's someone who is not going to be afraid to try, right? So that whole hustler mindset where if you put me down today, it's fine. I'm going to get up again the next second, right? It's something that I resonate to. And it's something that I love. And I have other people that have been influenced by their work. So someone like Brené Brown, I love her work on vulnerability because I think that most often, we think we are perfect, and because of our imperfections because of our imperfections we think that we are perfect, and because of our perfections we don't give ourselves the opportunity to grow, right? We hit a ceiling just right off the bat. And when I started listening to Brené's work and I read her work, I realized that anyone is vulnerable, right? You're not perfect, like I'm not perfect. And because of my imperfections, I give myself permission to say, okay, the next month I'm going to be better than in August. I'm going to be better than I am right now in June, right? I give myself the permission to be how work really helped me understand how and why that is important, so that I don't go feel like I should just live in a shell. I should live in my room, and if I want to cry, it's okay to it's bad to cry in front of people. It's bad to cry in front of a lady. It's bad to cry in front of my friends. It's okay for me to cry. If I'm having a bad day, it's okay for me to talk about it, right? No one is perfect. So I think how work really influenced me on that. And there are tons of other people similar to Brene that have done so many things that I love and I have read, and they have influenced me positively. And I take that, I put them all together, and that's what my evolution is all about. Based on my experiences and others around me, put all those things together from the perfect Emmanuel for today. And then the Emmanuel tomorrow is going to be better Emmanuel than Emmanuel today.
That's great to hear. Yeah, that's something we can all definitely relate with, trying to, improve on yourself. But also, what I was hearing a lot was you were talking about finding things that you relate with, the things that that inspire you, sorry, and trying to not latch on, but carry the good pieces out, the good breadcrumbs out of your experiences and kind of internalize them into your own experiences.
Yeah, and Sarah, right? This is by no chance, like this is by no chance am I trying to say I have not picked up things that were not positive. By no stretch of the imagination, right? But what I know for sure is that as I go through life and as I pick up things, because sometimes your influences, what you think is a positive influence might actually not be a positive influence. Not that it is originally bad, but it's not that is going to help you to achieve your goals, right? It could be taking you away from your goals. Not that it's necessarily evil or bad, but it's not what you need at that point in time in your life. So what I have done is when I started picking up things, I picked up a lot of things because I didn't really know what exactly I needed to pick up. So I heard a lot of people saying X amount of things, and I picked up those things. But what happened is the moment I started knowing that it wasn't aligning with my goals, what I wanted to achieve. When you look at your worksheet for in terms of like building your brand profile, what do I need to do in the next 6 months to get me to X place, right? So I realized that I started picking up a lot of things, and some of those things didn't help me get there. But by making those mistakes early on, I started learning how to identify the things not to pick at what time. And even if I didn't pick them at a time, it doesn't mean I'm not going to come back to them in the future, right? So I look at the things that would help me achieve a certain goal, and the things that can't at that time, I'm going to put them on the back burner and then come back to it at a later time if I need it. So, but you need to be able to build yourself to that space and place where you can identify the things to not pick, even if they're not necessarily bad, but maybe you don't need them at that time. So I think that's very important to know too.
Yeah, definitely. That whole entire process of, you know, internalizing and figuring out who you are at the depths to make sure that you're being responsive to your body's needs and how you're responding to certain things. So, kind of going off of that, how do you stay positive in branding when oftentimes it's a pretty negative environment? How do you not let the failures of your own brand and your own personal life weigh you down on different online medias?
So about a year or two ago, I told you I started a podcast, Entrepreneur Roadmap, and I stopped that podcast. And one of the reasons why I stopped the podcast was because I got really busy. But more so, the reason was one of the other reasons was, am I really worth doing a podcast about the roadmap of an entrepreneur? Have I taken any company public? Have I done X, Y, and Z? And to be honest with you, right, one of the reasons why I started asking myself this question was because others were asking me that question. Others were asking me the same exact question. So I took that in and let that define what my value was, what my brand was. And what I did was I let external factors impact my brand and how I represent my brand and my voice, because your brand is not only you as the person, but it's what comes out of the person. It could be through your content, it could be through what you speak out. So right now I'm talking about my experiences, and my experiences shaped my brand. So it had a negative impact on me, right? And at the time I felt like, okay, I needed to do more to be able to have the authority to talk about marketing, I talk about X, Y, and Z. And even up to now, there are times when I put out content there, people sometimes DM me and say, hey, what you said was rude, what you said was this. That wasn't my intention. And to truly stay positive is for me to really take a step back and say, whatever I am putting out there, what is the goal? Is the goal malicious? Or is the goal for me to share my perspective and my experiences? And I always go back to this. You are never ever going to align your values with every other person's value, and your values, your culture, your beliefs, etc. It's going to be part of your brand, and part of it is going to influence what you write, what you speak, and how you share the content to the world. So I came to peace with myself saying that not everyone is going to align with my brand, and if I find someone that doesn't appreciate what I bring to the table, what I look like, how I talk, then it is on them. But I actually do entertain those conversations. If you don't like what I posted, all right, let's have a conversation about it. That is what I think. And tell me, why are you pissed? If you can't have that conversation with me, then I don't care about it. Then you can just eat your bread and enjoy your meal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like eat your words, or I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, something like that. You get it.
So we're sort of at the 30-minute mark, but as for one last question, just wanted to ask you, for young kids like us, I mean, we're all young. What oftentimes the whole image of branding and putting the time in and the effort can be hazy. So what do you think the ultimate goal or, end product, or what is the inspiration to grow yourself as a brand has inspired you or could inspire the rest of us?
So, like every other person on this fireside chat and that's going to watch the video, we all have ridiculously ambitious goals, right? We all have something that's bigger than ourselves, and we want to achieve that. And most often than not, you could come from that environment where that is not the norm. And because it's not the norm, you are sometimes pressured to default to what the norm is. I'm from a family that is from a very tight niche family, into do what you have to do and don't try to risk it too much, because it's work to play safe,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And while that holds true for someone, is that truly what I want for myself? Is that truly what I wanted for myself? Going out there and sacrificing a stable career and sacrificing a stable yearly income to pursue entrepreneurship when you don't know when the next you how you're going to pay your next rent or whatever if the company goes down, because it's 80% likely to go down. That is something that most people, and sometimes your family would be like, oh no, go get a stable family, get a wife, get married, get kids, raise a family, etc., right? And that was the same thing with me, right? I faced some of those challenges. So for me, I took that advice, but I didn't only take that. What did I want for myself? I wanted something bigger for myself. I wanted to impact students and see them smile. I wanted to be able to go to work and know that I'm having a direct impact on students' life and on their career trajectory, even if it meant that I would not have a stable income, I would not have a stable career, because entrepreneurs are 80% likely to fail, right? So that was something that I had to come into terms with and accept. But the moment I accepted that that was a risk I was going into, that was the risk associated with entrepreneurship, then I was at peace with myself. If it fails, it is part of the process. And when trying to create your brand, it's going to be a process. And that process is not going to be an easy process. It's going to be, you're going to have several iterations of it. You're going to have several versions of yourself. You're going to have it's going to be an evolution. You're going to learn things. You're going to fail, and you are bound to fail, right? You're bound to get external pressures. You're bound to get challenges. But it's more so staying true to yourself and asking yourself why. And if your why is not genuine, then you're doing yourself a disservice. But if it's genuine, if you're trying to become the next Beyonce and you're not good at singing, then just quit that crack and go do something that you're good at. Because if you're not passionate about something, you cannot make it your brand, in my opinion. And that's how I'm going to end that question.
That was so amazing. It's really nice knowing that, you know, we all have our own path, and oftentimes we look at the end result as if it's where we should be right now. And a lot of times it's misconstrued on media, and, you know, in your family, with your peers, you always feel like whenever you're not moving forward. I think someone in actually one of our workshops was talking about this. If you're not moving forward, you feel like you're moving backwards, when in all actuality, it's all a process. You have to really discover who you are, what your passions are, and how you are going to be able to make your difference.
Yeah.
So
yeah, before we go to, we can open up the Q&A, and when someone is priming to get their question in, I think you made a very important point there, that if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. So the way I like looking at that is, right, think of yourself, think of a ladder, right? You're on a ladder and there are other ladders around you, and you started climbing this ladder at 6 a.m. in the morning, and you did not rest enough, you did not eat right, you were not ready, etc. So you had 5 hours of energy to climb up that ladder, and then after 5 hours, you've climbed, let's say you're 100 foot up, right? And you're right up there, and you get super exhausted. You say, all right, now is the time for me to rest. And you're resting at the wrong time. While others have rested, they are climbing that ladder and they're going to surpass you. So even if you're a year, the moment you rest, because you've hit that plateau, you don't have anything to go upwards, you don't have any energy to go upwards, people surpass you. And by the mere fact that they're surpassing you and you're still stagnant, you're going backwards. Right? So that is how I like thinking about it. It's all a process of evolution, but you need to understand that it's okay for me to rest for 8 hours, but for me to know that if I rest for 8 hours, I'm going to kill it for the next 16 hours, right? So, but that is an evolution. You need to fail, learn, grow, mix and match, marinate yourself, and come up with a real Emmanuel and the real Tara. You know?
Sounds great. On that amazingly positive and insightful note, I'd like to open it up to all Q&A about marketing and branding through technology.
Yes, and so Tara, fantastic job. And I don't want this to be edited out. I want this to be in this video because it's a true testament. I remember when we can get anyone on. I remember when I was back, I would mention this because the individual might watch this video. I was put in a situation where I had to talk and I wasn't ready for it. And I was just given another angle to go, but I was so uncomfortable, but I had to do it because I was on the spot. And my the lesson learned from that day for me was, as long as you just put yourself and just do it, then the only thing that's going to happen is for you to fail. And I'm super excited about the fact that you were put in that position. We had to change the whole narrative of the conversation and go into another new mindset, which I thought was much better, because you did a fantastic job. And I'm super proud of you that you stayed true to yourself and you did not panic. And for anybody watching out there, you're going to be put in situations in life when it's going to be uncomfortable, and just staying true to yourself and just going for it, pushing yourself out there to fail, you're gonna come out a much better person. So amazing stuff, Tara.
Thanks.
All right, so I think the way we it's gonna work is, if you want to ask a question, unmute yourself and turn on your video, and then put your phone speaker view so that we can or you can come in and answer your question. Hey Jeff, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Amazing. Thanks for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me. Great stuff. How you said your mother was your inspiration. I completely resonate with that. And also, like, when it comes to, just like having multiple influencers in different categories, I think that's so important. But I wanted to ask you a question about content creation, actually, on LinkedIn. Yeah. So my question has to do with, like, okay, if you're creating content on LinkedIn, like, what would be, from like your personal experience, what would be like a good way to create content that draws in viewers, right? Because it's like, suppose you already have a video that you created, or you already have a concept that you want to post, right? Like, what would be like good ways to word it, for instance, or like, like things like that.
That is there are so many levels to that question, and I would say it depends on what stage are you in your content creation cycle, right? So if you are a beginner, that what I mean by that is, how long have you on LinkedIn? Have you been creating content for a while, etc. Blah blah blah. And there's in content creation, you have your voice. Like, everyone has their writing voice, right? You have your voice, and your voice is how you write their content, the choice of words that informs your content creation processes, and how you articulate your thoughts together so it can present valuable information to the person listening. But now, so for me, when I started LinkedIn, the way I started putting my content out, and trust me, when I started LinkedIn, there was no video on LinkedIn, there was no live whatever, there was nothing, right? It was literally like a 1.0 2.0 Twitter, where you could post a longer form content and interact with people. And it was great at the time, because not a lot of people could judge you based on what you write, as opposed to video, relative to a video, especially when you're starting out. So I just started out with just writing things there that I just cared about. One of the first things I did was just write an article, right? It was just my personal experience. Just wrote something, put it out there. Didn't get a lot of traffic, but what I did afterwards was I used that piece and broke it down a little bit more and started writing posts. But I realized that when I started writing more, I started finding my voice. And based on the engagement that I get, I see what people resonate to and how I phrase that content, how long it is, how much do I space the content, and what emotions do I try to make my audience feel when they think about it. Do I want to make the content very relatable to a massive audience, or do I want to make it very niche specific, like marketing and branding? So over time, it evolved, and my passion was marketing. I'm an immigrant, so I posted things that I truly care about, and people resonated to that. And when they started interacting with the content that I put out to inform and educate people about immigration issues or things that are happening in other places, and people started going back to my old content, I started reading it. And that's how I started getting my traction on LinkedIn. And then from there, I said, okay, now let's do videos. I started doing videos a lot, and I did videos. Now I take it to another level where people don't only interact with what I write, but interact with my face. They know who I am. They know the tone of my voice. They know how I like talking. They know the speed at which I talk. And that just made people trust me more, because they saw an evolution from this guy that started posting this to this guy that is now doing that in addition to what he was doing in the past.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for that. That's very insightful, because a friend actually reached out to me recently and said that asked me if I considered transcribing my video content and like making posts from that. But I've never thought you transcribe your article and you were able to make content from that. That's really actually a game changer. I really like that. One other thing I want to ask you. You mentioned that you're an immigrant, right? Do you know Sadiq Abubakar?
No. Where is he from?
No? Okay, because he went to the school I graduated from, Hamilton College, and he's actually trying to, I think, working on a company for international students. And I think I was just wondering if you knew him, because I feel like he'd be a great person to connect with if you're passionate about that type of stuff.
I love connecting with people. I'm a social entrepreneur, and anything that is centered around helping people, helping communities, and helping the world at large have access to better opportunities, I am all for it. So make the connection. I think we're connected on LinkedIn, so make the connection for sure.
Most definitely. All right, thank you.
So my question for you is, as a young college student, in the next year I'm going to be applying for my first job. How do you recommend you set up your brand, your personal brand, that it will grow and show your professional side, but also a creative side? So I do kind of graphic designs on the side, and I want to go into advertising. So I guess I just was curious what you would suggest, just to show both, but kind of combine them in a professional way.
Yes, great question. Great question. And whenever I do my public speaking engagements, it is one of the things that I hear all the time. Super awesome question. And it's a truly big issue for students, because if you don't really understand how to express your brand identity in a way that can showcase value, then there is something that you are losing, right? So I will start by saying that if you're a student, what do you have to offer? Every student has something to offer. That's the key there, right? But you need to identify what you have to offer. What are your strengths? What are your passions? What are your interests? And whenever I interview a student, the first thing I do is I go to LinkedIn, I check them up. I go to Google, I search them up. If I can try to stalk them on Instagram, I do that, right? So I go around and source for any information I can about them, because that's the first thing that I'm going to do. So as a student, when you're starting up, what do you want that employer to see when they go and surf your name, when they go and put your name on any search engine? It could be LinkedIn, etc. And note too that companies don't want to hire robots. So if you have interest, if you love traveling, if you love art, if you love humanities, if you love social sciences, if it's okay to have footprints around those things on the web, because it shows you not just as a one-dimensional person. So an example is on LinkedIn or on Facebook or Instagram or Medium or any blog publishing site, put things that is going to make someone interested to talk to you. Or at the very least, it's going to make someone get to know you. And remember, brand equals you, right? I want to know the person. But now to take it further, as a creative, right? Graphic design, etc. When I go out and surf the wall, do you have that same vibrant personality that you told me you have? Right? Are you still that vibrant, or are you, when I go to social media, I just see you dull and you're posting about very dull things that are very, disheartening, etc. That doesn't align with your brand, doesn't align with you. But when you're coming to an interview, those are your digital footprints. But now that could be a hybrid between your professional and your personal interests and passions. But when you are sending me your body of work, how do you represent it? How do you present it? A very big part of branding is aesthetics, right? So as a student, I always advise students to have a portfolio. I always advise you to have something digital that puts your work in a very nice and clean web link or web page that I can see. And then that's going to validate with me with what I'm going to see on your resume. I'm going to see when I go to LinkedIn, when I go to Medium and learn about Kendall.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great answer. Very helpful.
Thank you.
Harrison, I would love to hear your questions.
You're muted, my friend.
It's okay if it's a realize. Yeah, I had a shave today. I tried trimming my beard and it's like didn't go too well, so I had to cut the whole thing off. So kind of look like an egg right now, but
Love it.
Whatever. Embrace it. Embrace it. That's why I'm going on video. But anyway, so for me, I have a lot of different interests. Like I might want to go into consulting, but I don't really have experience in that industry per se. So what's the best way to brand yourself to say that, hey, I'm interested in this, even if you don't have much experience in that field?
Simple. Put yourself out there and be a problem solver. Try to solve problems, but I'm going to elaborate on that. So one of the things about consulting is you don't need to be from a specific major to be a consultant, right? And you know this because there've been a lot of like the Big Four's consulting company, BCG, McKinsey, etc., that have been part of the VIP experience. So what are you currently doing to show me that you love solving problems? As a student, what organizations are you part of, or what other activities are you currently doing to solve a problem? And the whole thing about consulting is a hybrid between using problem-solving skills, analytical skills, critical thinking skills, and all the skills that are considered in quotes 21st century skills, and implementing that to solve a company's problem. Because when you think about a consultant, your whole life is to help a company solve a problem. That's what you do on a daily basis, and you're going to work in teams. So think about all the things that are important in consulting, and how can you put yourself in a position where you can use that for your advantage. And it's easier said than done. Implementing that is a little bit more challenging, but getting your foot in the door is also one critical component there. And there's no magic bullet to this, Harrison. There is no magic bullet to this. It's always about putting yourself out there, taking risks, and meeting people and finding mentors that are in those industries that can help you. Because the best person to give you any advice about consulting and how to get in the door is a consultant, in my opinion, right? Because they do that for a living, and especially someone who has a considerable amount of experiences there. But what has worked for me is not, and this goes just way beyond consulting, is in life in general, in any occupation, is if you are a student, you don't have any experience, what can you prove to me? Because I don't need to know that you have the skills. You're going to get trained. But what can you prove to me to know that you are someone who is a quick learner, someone who loves solving problems, someone who doesn't love just meeting the bare minimum, and you are an overachiever? That's something that personally I look at. It could be anything, but show me that.
I personally thought of some good examples just while you were talking of how I can present myself. So I'm going to post one of them on LinkedIn this week, so stay tuned.
Awesome. Share it with me so I can share some love.
Of course.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Thank you, Harrison. You're awesome.
It looks like Patricia has the next question.
Hi, Emmanuel. I was just wondering what your opinion was on hustle culture and how it affects our personal brands, personally and as professionals.
Hustle culture. So if I say this, don't make this sound too bad, but let's keep it in the video, right? So what do you mean by hustle culture?
I guess by hustle culture, there's like a lot of quotes out there telling you to keep on going and always be working and just work 24/7. I guess that's how I would define hustle culture.
Got you. Okay, that's the definition that you're gonna give to hustle culture. Cool, cool beans. So I sound like a dad when I said cool beans. No, cool, dope. Little fingers. That make me cooler a little bit. No, okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. So I'm probably the worst person to say answer that question, simply because of the fact that I am a go-getter, right? And every day when I come on Zoom, you guys tell me go take a break, and I'm here on my coffee, and I'm here with my Tylenol. But you know what? There is a saying that do what I say, don't do what I do. So this is probably going to be one of those instances where I would say, do what I tell you to do, but don't do what I do. So if you see me again tomorrow on a Zoom meeting and I am just I have red eyes or black eyes and I'm short of sleep, just know that I didn't ask you to do that. I told you to do this. So you got to take care of yourself, right? And you need to have a good work-life balance. And for some people that is important, but not for everyone. But it catches up to you too. So for me, you know, I know for a fact that it's going to catch up to me, and I'm planning to figure out a way that I'm trying to cheat myself by figuring out how can I give myself enough rest when I think I'm about to reach that burnout stage, you know. But I have no problem with hustling, I have no problem with if that's what drives you, but you need to find out what works for you, Pat. You need to find out what makes you fulfilled. You need to find out what makes you happy. Is working 8 hours and then going back home to your family and not having to worry about work? Is that what is important to you? And if that's what is important to you, then that's okay. But you just have to understand what works for you, and knowing that you need to find an environment that can accommodate that. So if you want to work 6 hours a day and go back home and not worry about work, or go and have a weekend vacation and not worry about work, just maybe the startup environment is not for you, because that's not just how it works, right? Because you have to put on many hats and you take work home. And sometimes that is okay, but as long as you identify that and you say, all right, I'm doing this for X amount of period of time, and this is what I'm going to get out of it. And after this, I'm going to go there. This is going to be the next phase of my life, my work life, right? And you make that known to you. If you are someone who needs unlimited PTO, that works for you, great and fine. Miles are tough. But make sure you identify that, and make sure you go into an environment that can accommodate that need, right? So it's all about identifying what works for you, what makes you happy, and figuring out the environment that works for you, and just staying true to it. That's my opinion. But in terms of work-life balance, I'm probably the worst person to answer that, because I just work, and I enjoy it. I'm just crazy like that.
Thank you, Emmanuel. That was insightful. So basically, just putting limits on yourself and knowing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, knowing yourself, knowing yourself. And by the way, for the viewers, if you go to Fireside Chat, one believes and values in the workplace, Pat was the co-host. So awesome stuff.
Okay, our next question is from Michaela Foreman.
What's up, sister?
I was just wondering what the difference was between channels and platforms, because I was thinking of them being interchangeable, and I just want to get for you to be able to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. So it's some people interchange them, but this is how I consider. This is what I consider a channel, right? I consider a channel as an environment to communicate your brand. And in that environment, you can have different segments that you use to create or showcase your brand. And that's in my world, that's how I look at it. So a channel could be social media. And in social media, a platform could be Facebook, could be Instagram, could be LinkedIn, right? In my world of channel for video messaging, a channel there could be TikTok. I mean, a platform that could be TikTok. It could be what's it called? YouTube, whatever, right? That's how I use it in my world. And blogging could be a channel, and a platform for blogging could be Medium. It could be Wix. It could be HubSpot, not HubSpot. It could be Drive. It could be Huffington Post. It could be whatever. It could be Forbes. So that is what I consider channels and platforms for me.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. That makes more sense to me now. And then my second question is kind of along the same things, and just thinking about like our digital footprint and everything, and how social media really can be kind of a draining, kind of detrimental to our mental health kind of place and atmosphere. And like I've even logged out all of my social media in the past weeks, and I'm only on LinkedIn right now. So with that in mind, how do we like develop and utilize other channels to kind of steer away from constantly being online, just period? Like how else can we communicate our brand to people without having to always be online?
I mean, if your one of your channels is gonna be through written content on platforms like LinkedIn and Facebook, there is no way to do that without going online. But now the question is, how many channels are you using, and what are the importance of those channels? And how many platforms are you using within those channels, within those different channels, and what purpose do they serve? And how are they going to help you achieve your goals? So identifying that is important, and what is not needed and what is needed. When you put all those things together, okay, I need to post on LinkedIn and maybe, for professional, etc. And I need to maybe tell the friends and families like I'm alive through Facebook, right? I'm not gonna go on Instagram, whatever. People do that. I'm gonna post once a year on Facebook because I want my family to be like, hey, it's my birthday, yay, bye. Okay. And identifying that and showing up, because there is no way you can build your brand without showing up. It's not gonna happen. If you want to build your brand, you gotta show up, and you gotta show up in a certain way. You gotta show up in the way that you want people to know you for, right? So identifying those things and knowing that, okay, if I want to invest my time on LinkedIn for a purpose for the next 6 months, I don't want to be distracted by YouTube and all that. That's fine. That's amazing. But make sure that as you're doing that, you show up if you have a goal for it. Because if you do not show up, then there is no brand to be built. Because people are going to interact with what? Brand equals you. If you don't show up, your brand does not show up. If you don't show up by posting things that you care about, then your voice does not show up. Your voice is you, your brand is you, and you must show up in a way that can transmit value, positive energy to your audience. So that's going to be my short, sweet answer. Hopefully it's helpful.
Yes, you're always so helpful, Emmanuel. So that definitely was great, and I'll continue to think about it like while I'm trying to build my brand. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rock.
I guess that wraps up our second fireside chat with Emmanuel about marketing, technology, and branding. I really want to give a big thank you for your insights and your answers. I think all of the viewers and all of us here are going to be able to and have learned a lot from you already. Really, this knowledge that you are sharing with us, we don't have a lot of other avenues to get some of this knowledge, so we really appreciate it. I also want to say a big thank you to the audience, because your questions have really inspired a lot of us, and I can see Emmanuel out there nodding his head because you guys have some amazing questions, and I really wanted to thank you guys for that. So I'm going to turn it over to Emmanuel.
No, absolutely. And, this would not be possible without folks like you, Tara, without folks like Michaela, and also to the creative director of the Emmanuel Fireside Chat conversation, Michaela Schaff, who is always hiding in the background and never wants to show her face, but she rocks. She is super amazing. And I want the world to know that this whole creative, this beautiful video seeing there it's my word, but it's just due to the amazing talent from Michaela Schaff that is just helping us put this together. So kudos to you. I love your work, and I for sure appreciate you. And thank you for all of you listening. You know, this is the second episode of Fireside Chat, and this is just the second of many. And I hope that you can all come and listen and form and join this community that we are building to inform people, to educate people. And if you have something to say, please show your voice. Come here, let us know what you think in the comment section below. Let us know what your thoughts are. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, subscribe. Yeah. And thank you and see you next time. Peace.